Invincible relies heavily, and I mean heavily, on shock value writing. Shock value, according to Wikipedia, an increasingly reliable source in these trying times, is the potential of an image, text, action, or other form of communication to provoke a reaction of shock by eliciting sharp disgust, anger, fear, or similar adverse emotions. So this type of writing is tailor-made to get an impulsive and strong emotional response out of the audience, which often supersedes thought because it is so shocking. You're not thinking about the logistics of what's going on, you're focusing on whatever emotion is blaring inside of you right now. This does not mean that automatically shock value writing is bad or ineffective. On the contrary, it can be amazing when used properly with setup and logical consistency, such as Star Wars if you aren't German.
I am your father.
But there are levels to this stuff, and with Invincible using this trick so much, you get to see the full spectrum. Invincible was first a comic book, and a comic book writer's job before telling a good story is selling freaking comic books. It's not a finished product that you make once and you're good. Every week or month you are producing a new chapter, and if you lose people's interest, your series dies. So by using shock value writing, it allows Kirkman to pull out the most insane situation he can think of, slap it on a page, and hook the audience with its shock value. And for that, I don't really have a problem. As I've said before, I enjoy Invincible. But it's when people come at me with the blanket statement, Invincible is incredibly well written, that I begin having a problem. Don't get me wrong, there are aspects of Invincible that are pretty well written. Take for instance, Nolan this season. His character development is weighty, every action he takes has reactions and consequences causing him to ponder the type of man he wants to be and allowing for his character to genuinely change. It's good stuff. But that care of writing is not applied to the entire show. On the contrary, that is more of the exception the further on we've gotten, especially when it comes to the plot. The shock value is first, and any thoughts or logic surrounding the scene get a back seat. When you view Invincible, especially season 4, through this lens, suddenly the writing makes a lot more sense, and you see how inconsistent a lot of it is. Because the writing breaks at the seams with one simple question, and that question is, for Mark, this season starts out with his struggle of once again coming to terms with killing and preparing himself to do it in the future. Although, once again, he hasn't actually killed because somehow Conquest is alive despite his brain being put through the equivalent of a hydraulic press. So Mark nearly kills this guy, then actually kills this guy, leading to the massive shock of his first real kill, and an innocent guy to boot. But then place a why question in the scene. Why did Mark kill this guy? We know the Sequids need physical contact to the brain to take over a host. Separate them from a host, and they become pretty useless. And this guy has 1, maybe 2 on him? Just pull them off or crush them and the fight is done. And if that didn't end things somehow, then maybe consider killing him. Why in the world did you nuke this man before at least attempting to remove the Sequids? I actually started laughing at this scene because it was so stupid. Mark sits and contemplates killing this man for a good 30 seconds, when a very obvious solution was right in front of him. The only shocking thing about this scene is how stupid it is. And this plot thread is carried on for episodes, constantly reminding me, yeah, Mark killed a guy he didn't need to kill. And I'm not gonna feel bad for him feeling bad because it was stupid and poorly implemented. Next is the Conquest fight. Now before this fight even begins, we have the shock factor of Conquest being alive at all from season 3 with the aforementioned hydraulic press, the second shock being that the fight is even able to happen. Remember, he's being held in a specialized prison by Cecil, the guy who has been studying Viltrumites extensively for the past 2+ years and understands just how devastating they can be. And that prison lasts all of 10 seconds when Conquest wakes up. Cecil, my man, you have multiple Viltrumite weaknesses at your disposal. You really only need one to keep Conquest in check. Remember that sound chip you put in Mark's head that caused him unbearable pain and made him so disoriented a few Reanimen were able to deal with him? Use that for crying out loud. That's like Lex Luthor capturing Superman and not using the kryptonite he has on hand to keep him imprisoned. Anyways, For the fight itself, this rematch takes place probably a few months since the last fight between Mark and Conquest, and for some inexplicable reason, Mark is just able to go blow for blow with Conquest in the beginning of this fight and overpower him several times throughout it. Excuse me, what? Fight 1, Mark was tossed around like a rag doll. The only reason he survived and won was because Conquest first went easy on him and then received major damage from Eve before Mark finished the fight.
I killed you! Let's be honest. It was mostly your magic girlfriend.
So Mark has been insanely buffed for no explainable reason. And when we see how Mark chooses to fight, sweet mother of mercy, this is actual lunacy. If you've ever watched MMA or Jiu-Jitsu, you've seen a choke grip or a headlock, and you know how effective they can be. Getting in this type of position is usually just GG's, shake my hand. But notice how they choke while behind their opponent. That is because trying to choke someone from the front is quite possibly the stupidest thing you can do in a fight. In order to pull this choke off, you need to be significantly, and I mean significantly, stronger than your opponent. When choking from the front, you mainly use your grip strength to maintain the hold. Meanwhile, the person resisting can grab your arm and use their entire arm, back, and chest muscles to pull you off. They basically get to use the strength of most of their body against your grip strength. That's why you always see a villain do this to a hero that's broken and unable to fight. The strength difference there is incomparable. But here, Mark just maintains the hold against the second strongest Viltrumite who gave him the Loki versus Hulk treatment not even half a year ago. What are we doing? In order for Mark to pull this off, he would need to be several times stronger than Conquest. This level of strength wouldn't suffocate Conquest, it would instantly snap his neck. Additionally, the second major weakness of this chokehold is that you leave yourself completely wide open to attack. As Mark figures out, yet it frickin' works! So you're telling me Mark lets go here, but not here? Throughout this season, we've seen Viltrumites absolutely body each other in a few or even single blows. But in this fight, the second strongest Viltrumite can't kill a baby Viltrumite in like 100?
What?
Because Mark said a cool line about never letting Conquest breathe again, the series will move heaven and earth, logic be condemned, to make it happen. And when you add this in with the shock value of Conquest being alive and the ridiculous details to make that happen, we are left with the ultimate shock value of Mark's spaghetti scene. Besides just being nasty, it makes no sense at all. So, Conquest does the infamous Viltrumite hand slice, giving his hand the density of a neutron star and the cutting power of Kenpachi's Bankai, and shoves his hand right through Mark's abdomen. Why didn't he lead with this? Who knows? Why doesn't every Viltrumite lead with this? Who knows? Obviously, I can't show this here, but Conquest's hand is, well, massive, making a hole the size of a bowling ball in Mark. So that means everything in that area was obliterated. Stomach, liver, bladder, kidneys, large and small intestine, and even Mark's spine has a massive hole, has been moved around, or even shoved out of his body at this point. That was just the initial strike. And then Conquest starts pulling things out, which are still somehow connected despite them being ripped up seconds ago, and then he rips open more of Mark's organs. And Mark is still holding on. This isn't hype, this is stupid. How did you not die instantly? Viltrumites have died from much, much, much less. You just lost several vital organs, part of your spine, and most of your blood is on the outside of your body. Alright, Kirkman, it's already a miracle Mark won this fight. You're going to have to pull another miracle to show how Mark survives this. Yeah, 2 months bed rest, he'll be fine. I guess Viltrumites can just survive their organs being exploded, parts of their spine being removed, and other organs just being pulled out with 2 months bed rest, no medical help, because apparently that's just one of their abilities.
How could you have opened a vault to which you didn't even know the combination in 3 seconds flat?
With my 3 seconds flat bat vault combination and scrambler, Commissioner. Amazing.
What's worse is that this fight is something that just happens in this season. It doesn't add anything meaningful to the story or to the plot. Rather, it actually harms it. Mark didn't learn some lesson to defeat Conquest this time around. There are no ramifications for Cecil royally screwing up. The show doesn't even address it when Mark comes back like I was hoping. And it only serves to derail Nolan, Oliver, and Mark from joining the war. If the three got lost for 2 months and bonded during their time, it would achieve the same result. Mark could still say his one-liner about killing Conquest because technically he would have. The relationship between Mark and Cecil would go back to status quo without inconsistencies. Mark being alive would still actually make sense. Mark being unable to harm Thragg would make a lot more sense with him not soloing the number 2 Viltrumite literal episodes ago, and the legacy of Conquest would remain intact with him not losing to a fledgling Viltrumite 1v1 by the worst choke grip known to man. This entire subplot of Conquest coming back is just poorly executed shock factor built upon more shock factor, but there is no substance to it. Now we can move on to the main plot and Thragg. Let's start with Thragg's plan to strengthen the Viltrumites by weeding out the weak among them. The idea on its own is not a problem and fits very well with the Viltrumite mindset. It's actually already ingrained in their society, which we see when Nolan has to fight his parents in order to become an adult. Failure means death. But Kirkman, he had to one-up this. He really needed to shock us here. So Thragg kills a fellow Viltrumite without cause, and practically calls for a civil war. Few questions. What was the plan here? This purge has no rules, system, direction, or indication of when it might end. How is Viltrum, the planet, not torn apart? This is billions of Viltrumites fighting each other. And Thragg announced this through a broadcast, likely going to the entire Empire which stretches across the galaxy. Does that mean on every one of their planets, Viltrumites are just killing each other, destroying whatever planet they are on, and thereby loosening their grip on the galaxy as they slaughter their own fighting force? Every member of Viltrum helps maintain the Empire because they are militaristic. So your Empire is now attempting to function with 50% less hands on deck. When Thragg finally puts a stop to it, he announces the end to like 3 Viltrumites. What about everyone else? Also, now you have to pay a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 planets worth of property damage to restore the massive empire you destroyed. Why not just expand the system already in place or establish an empire-wide tournament? That way you don't have to destroy your entire empire just to aura farm. Later in the season, Thragg has the gall to say this.
The death of any Viltrumite leaves a void in me.
Yeah, sure Thragg, sure. Like the Conquest rematch, the Purge does absolutely nothing for the plot. Viltrumite society was already cutthroat with their process of how to become an adult, and the Scourge Virus is ultimately the plot tool that cuts the Viltrumites down to a group of 50. So it's just kind of there, and probably only exists to remain consistent with what Omni-man said in Season 1. Likely, the Scourge Virus was never the plan when Kirkman was first writing the comic, but as he got further in, he needed a justification for why there were so few Viltrumites, and probably included the Scourge Virus as the reason. So now we have 2 genocidal events in Viltrumite society within a relatively short period of time.
I failed you, my Emperor, but I will not fail our people.
Yeah, great job, buddy. Regarding the Scourge Virus, how do we only have 50 Viltrumites when they are scattered across the galaxy? Unless Thaddeus managed to sneak the virus onto every planet occupied by Viltrum. But let's say for sake of argument that Thaddeus did, or every Viltrumite was on Viltrum during the virus. With only 50 or so Viltrumites remaining, General Craig points out the very apparent reality that they can no longer control the Empire with this few. It is simply impossible, and they need to focus on producing more of their kind. And Thragg is just like, nah fam, we good. We're actually just gonna grow. And the Empire is just fine, and everything works out for hundreds or even thousands of years. What? The Empire is still functioning and continuing to expand. Is like if Amazon lost 99% of its workforce, somehow didn't go out of business, and expanded productions. It's utterly ridiculous. To further point out ridiculousness, Thaddeus says,
Our people hid their wound well.
When they literally made a planetary ring out of corpses of Viltrumites, how did you not find out? They have freaking scanners that go across the galaxy. People will just say stuff in the show and it's reality without any justification or logic behind it. As long as it shocks you or serves to further the plot, it's fine. Take for instance the attack on Talescria. General Craig, the arbiter of logic, once again points out that the security of Talescria is too strong for a frontal attack. And Thragg, once again, goes, "Nah fam, I know someone with the off button." How in the world did Thragg get a mole? Is he sending him some space email with promises of life and riches if this dude acts as a traitor? With everything we've seen from Thragg's character, isn't relying on a quote-unquote lesser race and using betrayal kind of beneath him as he views himself? So the mole opened up Talescria's defense system. First question, why the frick does one single person have an off button to an entire planet's defense system? This is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. Your local grocery store likely has more security than an entire planet going to war with the most powerful race in the galaxy. Also, why is no one notified when the system is turned off? It's a planet-wide system. Why would the traitor turn off the defense system and stick around to where the attack was happening? He says he was a traitor to survive the war, yet he practically gave the enemy his coordinates for a bombing run so they could kill his allies and win the war. You'll die too. Additionally, why did the Viltrumites retreat? Why didn't Thragg fight when he is clearly capable of soloing everyone and is at the heart of the enemy base? The war ends right there. And if you're saying to protect the skull, my brother in Christ, please. You're telling me he can't solo everyone while holding the skull after witnessing how he humiliated everyone? These are the flimsy justifications used to have these shocking moments or the story as a whole. There are so many more throughout this season. So here's a long lightning round to wrap up this video. Why can Mark overpower the second strongest Viltrumite yet be unable to even make Thragg flinch after throwing his strongest punch? Yet a scene later, Invincible helps blow up a planet, and Thragg is somehow tossed around by a shockwave. Why can tech jackets, little darts, penetrate Viltrumite's skin? Why doesn't Space Racer take more shots at Thragg when he is by far the biggest threat? Why did this guy blip out of existence? Why did they destroy Viltrum? This did not change their position in the war, nor net them any advantage. All it served was pissing off Thragg and making it so that Viltrumites had nothing left to lose. Why did Thaddeus expect this to cause the other Viltrumites to surrender? He and the others were still outnumbered. Why can Thragg one-shot Thaddeus when he himself stated that Thaddeus was stronger than himself? It was a long time ago, and Thragg is definitely stronger now, but still, Thaddeus went out like a clown for the sake of shock factor. Why did Thragg abandon the war after defeating his greatest threats? The coalition would have fallen like a house of cards. Why did he allow Mark and Nolan to live when he effectively no longer needs them because their population crisis has been solved through Earth? Why did he tell Mark that he and the others were hiding on the planet, risking the chance of Mark lying to him about agreeing to the terms? Mark could bring the entire coalition of planets with all their discovered Viltrumite weaknesses to Earth. Not saying Mark would, but that's a huge risk for Thragg to take. Additionally, why does Cecil not know they're on the planet? He has sensors able to perfectly track when anything approaches Earth from space. Why is Nolan the only Viltrumite that has had kids since the Scourge Virus, despite it being hundreds or thousands of years and a low population, is Viltrum's biggest weakness? With the original 50 Viltrumites, if we assumed half were women and half were men, they could avoid inbreeding for hundreds of years with strict management and create a decent-sized population since they are effectively immortal. And with the introduction of humans to the mix, their problems are solved forever. Upon discovering Mark's existence, why did they not speed blitz Earth to take it over? He has more than proved the capability of a human Viltrumite mix. It is literally what they have been searching for. In conclusion, Invincible will always choose a quick and easy shock factor over layered and logical progression. As long as the story can go the way the writer wants it to go and it is able to surprise the audience, Invincible will omit, ignore, and downright contradict details and established story. And honestly, that's alright. Invincible is still a fun show and one that I enjoy despite all my critiques and complaints about it. I don't think it'll ever live up to the standard it's set in Season 1, but it is still enjoyable. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. Although, if someone starts telling me how brilliant every aspect of the writing is, I might just break down and write a 5-hour video essay. Hey there, been a minute. Thanks for watching my video to the end. I took a break from YouTube to focus on my job, crazy stuff in life, and a book I'm working on. I suppose if I'm handing out critiques like candy, I should probably throw my hat into the ring too at some point. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I'll see you guys next time, and God bless.